Well, hey there everyone. So I will give you 3 seconds to guess what I'm going to be doing today. If you guessed another Renaissance outfit, you would be correct. So pretty much what happened is I was scrolling TikTok and I saw somebody try on a Renaissance outfit, and so I wanted to make a new one. So that's what we're going to be doing. A whole new look. So I'm going to be making a dress and a corset, and then I'm going to stack on that belt combo that I made the other day with the T-holster and whatnot. And then I'm probably going to wear it to the Renaissance Fair. So I went thrift shopping because I had kind of a vision of what I wanted to do for the dress portion. So pretty much I wanted it to be a dress that I could wear with or without a corset, so it would look like regular clothes, and then I could stack a corset on top of it and it would look like a Renaissance outfit. So basically that means long, flowy, poofy arms, like usual. So that's kind of the vision that I had. So I ended up picking up this really pretty green, like foresty green bed sheet. So that's going to be the main of the dress. And then I also picked up another lighter material that has like little green leaves on it. And that's just going to be for a little ruffle on the bottom of this dress. So yeah, let's hop into the dressmaking, and then I will explain the corset after we finish the dress here. So I believe the pattern that I used for the dress was the snowflake dress pattern, but I took out the arms, so I redrew it to keep that little heart shape, you know, that kind of neckline. So I kept that and I took out the arms and basically just drew a line. So I also wanted this dress to have an elastic back because I wanted it to be comfortable, easy to get on and off. So I'm going to put some scrunchies in the back. So basically I just redrew those patterns. And then for the arms, I took the silky dress arms, but I extended them so that they were a little bit longer. And then for the skirt, I'm gonna try and do as much of a circle skirt as I can. I can't get anything close to full because I only have like this much material left. I was only able to find like one bed sheet for this green, so I had to use my material wisely. And then for the bottom, it's basically I'm just cutting strips and then ruffling it and adding it to the bottom. So that's easy enough. So the construction of this dress goes pretty fast. Now that all of the pieces are cut out, it is time to start sewing things. So I'm going to take the outer fabric and the lining for the front piece, and I'm going to add the little darts. And then after that, before we even start sewing on the sides and the back pieces or anything, we're just going to take those two pieces and sew it just along the top. So I'm going to see you after that. So here I'm just readjusting that pattern, and I'm taking out the sleeves and making it a bit more of a drastic sweetheart neckline. And then for the back, I'm also doing the same thing. It takes a little bit of adjustment, and note here that I'm not adding the extra space that I need for the elastic. I'm just making this the regular pattern size. Then when I cut out that back piece, that's when I will add the extra material for the back to be scrunched. Then the first thing that we have to do is we have to add the two dart pieces into the outer fabric and the lining of the front bodice pieces. Once that's done, you place those two pieces right sides together and sew just along the top, and then turn it right sides out and iron it. So now that that's sewn, it's time to do the back. So before we start sewing in the little scrunchies, I'm going to just take the outer fabric and the lining and just sew it together right along the top. And then you'll put it right sides out. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, this is like the same process as the Halloween dresses that I did this year, or last year. So basically I'm just going to mark out my elastic channels and sew those lines, then feed elastic through and pin it on each side, and then sew it down, and now I have like an elastic back. And then once I have that, the back can now be sandwiched into the front bodice piece, and then just turn it right sides out, and you have almost a completed bodice piece. So I'm gonna see you after that to talk about the arms. Now for the back, like I said, the first thing I'm going to do is place some right sides together and sew just along the top, and then turn it right sides out and iron it. Then I'm going to draw my elastic channels and then sew along those lines. After that, the elastic can be added and then sewn down. Now we're just going to take that back piece and place our right sides together inside of the front bodice piece and then turn it right sides out. Now for the arms, this is pretty simple. So basically we just have the one layer for each arm, and before I start sewing anything together, I'm going to sew the elastic channel along the top. So I'm just going to iron down that hem because the curve is a little rough to do without ironing. So I'm just going to iron that down and then sew it, and then feed some elastic through it and sew that to secure it. Then I'm going to take the arm and sew it together, right sides together, but with leaving a 5-inch gap at the top, and that's what we're going to be using once it's open to sew onto the bodice. So once you do that, then you just go ahead and put an elastic channel into the bottom of the sleeve and then feed some elastic through. And then finally it can be pinned onto the bodice and sewn on, and then this bodice piece is done. So we can move on to the skirt. Now for the sleeve, again, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add that elastic channel first, then add the elastic. Then it can be sewn right sides together, and then you can add the elastic for the bottom. After that, it can then be added to the top of this bodice. Now for the skirt, like I said, I'm going to try and do a circle skirt. So basically I just cut out kind of triangular patterns, trying to get some sort of flow that wasn't just a rectangle. because I didn't want the top to be super bulky. So basically I just took 4 pieces of that. I sewed them all right sides together. And then once they were all sewn together, I did a basting stitch around the top and I gathered it to the length of the bodice for the top of the bodice. And then I just went ahead and I sewed those 2 together. And lastly is the bottom ruffle. So basically, like I said, I'm just going to take this fabric that I have and I'm going to cut it into thirds. And then I'm going to sew those strips together. Then I will hem it before I start ruffling it because it's just easiest that way. And then once I do that, then I can ruffle it and then add it onto the bottom of the skirt. And then this dress is done. Now for the skirt, once you cut out those like odd triangle pieces that almost make it a circle skirt, you just place all the panels right sides together until you make a complete circle. Then I used a basting stitch and gathered the top of this. Once I did that, I could go ahead and add it to my bodice piece. Now for the bottom ruffle, basically what I did is I cut this into thirds. And so once I did that, I would just take these strips and then sew them all together until it made a complete circle. Then I ruffled it and added it to the bottom of the skirt. Now for the corset. So the style of corset that I'm going to do is a little bit different than I've done. I'm lying, that's not different. So basically what I'm going to be doing for that is I'm going to be using the pattern that I used for the like fully boned reversible corset, which I then used to make the Christmas corset where I painted, but this time it's going to be a front laced corset rather than a back lace, which is what makes it a little bit different. But I'm not going to do full boning like I did in the reversible corset. So basically for that, I did just do a little bit of adjustments. So I wanted it to be a little bit lower, so I just took the front pattern piece and I drew it just a teensy bit lower. And then for the back, I did shorten it just a bit because I noticed that whenever I sew this corset, I need to take it in a bit. So I just went ahead and shortened it a little bit based off of the corsets that I'd made with this pattern in the past. So I'm just going to be using the same fabric for both the lining and the outer fabric because I didn't feel like finding a lining fabric. So basically it's just this big plot of thrifted fabric that I picked up at Goodwill one day. I thought it was a nice little contrast of like black and flowery. So you'll see that in a second. So I will see you after I cut out all of those pieces. Now to start sewing everything together. So pretty much you just take all the pieces, you'll see this whole process, you're just going to sew them all right sides together and with both of the outer fabric and then the lining. And then once you get all of those sewn, you can just iron down the seams and then we can move on to the next step. So I am going to do something different, something that I generally don't do because I'm lazy. So also it's complicated. So instead of generally when I make corsets, I will put them right sides together, so all the way along the outside and then turn it out. That's not technically how it's supposed to be done, but that's how I do it because it's easy. But I'm gonna try and do it the correct way this time. So pretty much what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna take these two completed outer fabric and lining pieces. I'm going to place them wrong sides together and just baste all the way around the top. So that leaves all the edges exposed, and I'm doing that for a reason. So I am going to add bias tape onto the outer edges of this whole thing, which I generally don't do because I hate dealing with bias tape. So this is a bit of a process that I didn't enjoy, but it looks good, so that's why I did it. So basically what I'm going to do, instead of just like simply sandwiching it into all of this, because there's a lot of curves and a lot of things going on, I wanted to like pre-pin this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the bias tape and pin it along the like edges of everything and sew it, and then I can eventually turn it in and then sew it along the other side. So a little way to make this a little bit easier is to iron out the curves in the bias tape as you go along, and it makes it just a little bit easier to get the bias tape onto this top, although it was still quite difficult for me. And then once you've done that, I went back to the ironing board and I flipped the bias tape over, and then I ironed it down, and then I just went ahead and sewed very close to the edge of that bias tape, and I sewed it down along the whole thing. So I'm gonna see you after that incredibly long process. Now for the corset, again, what you're gonna do is take all of the pieces and just place them right sides together and sew them down. You're gonna do this for both the outer fabric and the lining. Then once everything is ironed, you're just going to take both the outer fabric and lining, and this time place them wrong sides together, and then just baste all around the top. Now we're just going to open the bias tape and pin it all the way around the top. Once that's sewn, I just went ahead and I ironed it down and folded it, and then I just sewed it very close to the edge on the other side. Now that the bias tape is done, it is time to move on. So I went ahead and I folded in the edges of the front of this bodice because I wanted to take it in just a little bit. So I folded it in twice, and that created my first boning channel for the boning in the front, and now I'm going to make the rest of the boning channels. So I'm not going to do as heavily bone as the reversible corset, so I'm just basically going to add boning like 2 on each side of the seams, and then some in some structural places, which you'll see me do. So just go ahead and sew those channels down and then add the boning. And then once the boning is added, I just went ahead and I sandwiched the bias tape onto the bottom of this corset, and I finished off that bottom. So the last step for this is to add the grommets on the front and then on the strap and the little like bump here to connect to the strap. So basically, once that's done, we're ready for the final look. Now that the top bias tape is done, we can start doing our other structural things for this bodice. So I went ahead and I took it in just a little bit and sewed down that little fold on the front, and that will be my first boning channel piece. Then for the rest of the boning channels, I went ahead and I marked those out and then just sewed lines for them. After that, the boning could be added, and then we could add the bias tape. Once the bias tape on the bottom is added, then we could go ahead and add the grommets. And this little tool here is called an expanding sewing gauge. It's something that I picked up from Amazon, and it's making everything so much easier for grommets and buttons. It just evenly spaces things out, and then I just go ahead and I mark where I want my grommets to be without having them uneven and placing the grommets like I usually do. So this tool just made this job so much easier. And the final touch to this is to add my little tag on that my lovely older sister got me from Etsy, and then we are ready for the final look. I think this is another banger of a Renaissance outfit. And I don't know, it's just what I do best. I love making Ren Faire looks. This dress, like, itself is so cute. Like, I'm so excited just to wear this out. I want to frolic. I want to frolic so bad. It's giving, like, silky vibes, especially with the big bottom and everything. I want to frolic. Someone please find me a field so I may live my dreams. And then the corset, I think, also turned out so good. I think to this day, that might be my favorite corset that I've made. I think the bias tape on the top worked really well. I did not enjoy doing that one bit, but it looks good. And I just like love the contrast of like the black on the green, and it does have like a little bit of green in the corset, so it does like fit in a little bit, but it just turned out so well. I think if anything I could change about it, I would just make it a little bit tighter so that it could show like the separation of the corset, because I'm able to tighten it all the way comfortably. And I kind of like that separated look, but that's what I ended up with. But I still really, really enjoy that look. And then when I top it on with the belt that I made like 2-3 weeks ago, it's just chef's kiss. And I absolutely love the elastic back on this dress. It just makes it so comfortable, so easy to get in and out of, and I don't have to like put on a zipper or buttons or anything. So honestly, I'm loving the little elastic backs that I'm adding to things. It just makes everything so much easier. Like, it's easy to breathe in this thing, which is a good time. I like the sleeves. The length is actually perfect. I like barely did measuring for the length, so it just ended up being spot on. So I am enjoying that. Yeah, overall, I say this all the time, but I'm gonna wear this to the Ren Faire next. And I am actually going soon, so I think this will be my first outfit, and I think I'm gonna go another time and I'm gonna wear the last outfit that I made, that I put together when I made my like teacup holster and everything. So I think those are gonna be my looks this year, because I think I'm planning on going at least twice. So that's what we're gonna be doing. And if I do, I will try and get photos. So yeah, let me know if you liked this look. I quite enjoy it. And let's be honest, it's not going to be my last one. That's just the way I'm built. I'm built for the Ren Faire. So, anywho, if you like what I did, go and like and subscribe. I post most Saturdays, mostly at noon, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching!